That's my motto anyway. And I'm so happy that today we have the author, Arvind Devaliya, with us to talk about the book, Get the Life You Love and Live It. And so we're going to discuss with Arvind kind of the behind the scenes, how this book came to be, and just whatever you want to share with us today, Arvind. And with us are Jean Lorio, Christina Leftwich, and Linda Lemieux. And any of you that are in the audience watching this, you're welcome to come onto the Zoom. The link is in the Soul Food Book Club group. And even if you haven't read this book, which we're going to talk about that as well, just come in and hear the wonderful message that Arvind has for us. So Arvind, I'm just going to invite you to lead the group today.
Okay, thank you, Terry, for having me on, and hi, everyone. Just wanted to give you a bit of background behind the book as well. So this is the book. It's got a very happy front cover. It's got a sunflower on the front, and it's actually 15 years old now. I first wrote this book 15 years ago, but the message is universal and people seem to resonate with it. So it's still selling really well. And people ask me what's so different about this book. And I tell them honestly, I said, look, there are literally thousands of books like this out there. You go to any personal development book section of any bookstore and you'll come across literally hundreds of books which have got more or less the same message, things that you have to do to improve your life. And so I tell people that, look, what's different about this book is two things, really. Firstly, it's a workbook. It's not just a reading book. When you open up the book, there are 25 very short chapters. Each chapter is only 2 pages long. And then there are 2 pages of actions. So there are, for example, if you're talking about, let's say, adopting an attitude of gratitude, there are 2 pages of questions such as write down 10 things that you're grateful for in your life. So it makes people think and it makes people write things down rather than just reading a book and then forgetting about any action. Because most people who come across these books in a bookstore, they might buy it, but most people actually never actually get around to reading it. And those who read it, very few of those then take any action. So I wanted to create something that almost forces people to take action from the first time they read the book. And the second reason the book is different from other books out there like this in this category is that a lot of my life is integrated into the book. So when I talk about, say, my relationships or my work career, I'm not just saying, go and do this. I'm saying, look, this is where I messed up. This is what worked for me, and maybe you want to try the same thing as well. So it's a very personal book because I talk a lot about my ups and I talk a lot about my failures and times when I was struggling in my life. So people can relate to that. And I've had people come back to me and say, wow, I went through a book and I feel I really, really know you because you were so open about sharing what's really been happening for you. So it makes it very much more real. Any questions so far? And okay, so then a bit of history about the book then. So years ago, I did a charity thing for my local coffee shop. There's a cafeteria and they allowed me to do this thing to raise money for comic relief. I'm not sure whether you have that in the US. It's Red Nose, yeah. So I spent the whole day outside and inside this cafeteria just with the Red Nose and talking to people and raising money. And the local newspaper covered me in their local paper. 2 weeks running, they had me with a Red Nose. And then as a result of that publicity, I raised £800 for the charity Red Nose. So a week later, I got in touch with the newspaper. I said, look, you've been so kind to me and you gave me so much publicity. It allowed me to do so much good for Red Nose. How about I do something for you guys as well? And I offered to write a coaching column for them, which they loved. They loved the idea of that. So a month later, I had a column which actually ran for almost a year. Every week, I wrote about a certain personal development thing, like things about creating a life vision, getting clear about your values, your life purpose, etc. And then 6 months down the line, I realized I had all these really good articles, which I could then put together into a book. So when I started writing the column, I wasn't very good. It used to take me about 2 days to write a simple article. And then I got really good at it now. And soon I was writing an article in about an hour, 90 minutes every week and just getting it out to them. And then about October that year, I realized maybe I could turn this into a book. At that time, I had 18 articles Then I spoke to a friend of mine who's a book editor, and she said, look, if you get everything back to me within 2 weeks, I can probably help you get a book out by Christmas, which is what I wanted. So I worked day and night, got the first draft to her, which she then tore to bits. Then 2 weeks later, I gave her the final draft, and then I got a cover done, and I got a printer rather. And 30th of November, I had the first copy of my book. And the book at that time was called Get a Life. That did really well. I printed 2,000 copies. And within sort of 9-10 months, I run out of those copies. So then I rewrote the whole book. And the book became Get the Life You Love. And what I found was that people didn't like to be seen reading a book called Get a Life. Like if they were in a train or in a coffee shop, it didn't reflect very well on them. So it didn't go down too well. So I changed the title to Get the Life You Love. And I spent 6 months that summer working on the book. I added a lot more content, kept the same chapters more or less. And this is what you see. So again, I went the self-published route, and not knowing how these things work, I thought I'll get lots of copies done. And the printer I found, they gave me a really good deal. First they said 1,000 copies, then they said, okay, for a bit more, you can have 2,000 copies. And for slightly bit more, you can have 4,000 copies. So in the end, I ended up with 4,500 copies delivered to me. And I live on the 3rd floor with no lift. So we had to bring all these books up. And they said, look, make sure your floors are really strong, because this weighs about 3/4 of a ton. I had no idea that the books would weigh so much. So over the next 2 years, I sold most of the books. I had them in my parents' home. I had them under my bed. But the point is, I was so clear that my message was strong, and I believe in the book, and I knew that over time I will sell them. And in the course of the last so many years, I think I've sold around 10 to 11,000 copies now. And it's all been word of mouth. I've done a few things here and there, but it's all mainly been word of mouth and on Amazon. And I've had some amazing reviews back. I've had people who now on their 2nd or 3rd copy of the book. They keep the book by their bedside. They're writing it in pencil so they can go back and change it. I've got one friend, well, she wasn't a friend before, but now she's become a friend. She swears by the book because and every time I meet her, she shows me her 2 copies. She's written inside both of them. And most of the things that she wanted for herself in her life have come true. So, introduction to the book. And I deliberately made the chapters freestanding. So there's 25 chapters, but they're presented in logical order. So if you really wanted to work on your life, you can start with chapter 1 and then work your way through. But each chapter is actually freestanding. So if you want to jump into chapter 10, then you're not going to miss out on anything. But the key is to get some action, get some momentum forward from the first day, from the first time you look at the book. And I deliberately made it simple, kept it really easy to read.
I find it is easy to read, Arvind, and I do have my copy, and I have a signed copy.
Of course.
And I just, word of mouth is so powerful. And I have a dear friend, we all know, I think, our Carrie Klingenbutcher.
Yeah.
And Carrie is the one who actually told me, I want you to meet this guy. I want to connect you. And she did. And we had a great discussion. And then I received this book from Arvind, and I love it. And it is easy to read. And yeah, I agree with you. You can turn to any of these chapters and look at those questions. Or what I like is like the little sayings, or I guess it's like a subtitle at the top of each one. Like if you wanted to transform your existing relationship, you would go to step 24. And read what's there. So it's good to work from front to back, but if you need something like immediately, it's there. And I love that. And I love the questions, anytime we start to do that self-reflection, it's like, oh boy, we're doing some deep work here now. But we so need that, don't we? It's so
needed. I wanted to keep it simple. I wanted to make it accessible rather than making it complicated, making the actions difficult. So for example, if you're talking about gratitude or appreciation, those are my 2 favorite chapters around gratitude. So to people to slow down and say every morning, just think of 10 things you feel gratitude for. And for most people, that's quite a unique thing to do, really. Not many people actually slow down in the morning. Most of us nowadays are so much into just getting going, getting people to pause and look at all the good things in their life. I think that was a good place to start. And sharing their appreciation as well with the people in their life, like appreciating what's around them, appreciating abundance all around them. I mean, right now I'm looking out, it's raining quite heavily outside, but there's still lots of stuff, lots of things to be appreciative about, regardless of the weather or current circumstances or all the challenges we're currently facing. As I said to somebody this afternoon, that a lot of good things will come out of the coronavirus situation and all the challenges we're facing right now. So it's like looking at what's on the other side where we're at now, getting people to approach life in a different way. I think the book has been really useful to get people to think differently and think in a more positive manner and get away from their day-to-day challenges. So I'm guessing only a couple of you have actually seen the book, right? Or have you got the PDF or the Kindle? Or
Well, we've seen the book.
you've seen the book, but you haven't got it yet. Okay.
I even went to another bookstore to try to order it. You know, I thought, well, Amazon doesn't have it. I'll try. Well, it used to be called Borders, but now I think they're part of Barnes and Noble. And I couldn't get it until the 24th of November. And I thought, that's not going to help a whole lot. So,
right. So there is an issue there, yeah. I'll tell you a funny story with Borders. It's really good because Borders went bust. They were also in the UK as well, but I think in 2008, 2009, they went bust in Europe. So we don't have Borders anymore. But when I first published the book, I tried to get it into Borders, and there was a store in central London near Oxford Circus. So initially the manager said, yes, he'll speak. Then when I went trying to drop some copies off, he said, no, he's changed his mind. I can't have it there anymore. So that was the end of that. And then I thought, okay, how can I work with Borders to get the book out there? So what I did was I approached some of the other stores in London saying, look, I'm a local author, which I was, I'm London-based. I said, look, I'd love to do you a book reading event. Can you come and talk? I can do something for you guys. And they were very keen. And they said, not many authors approach us to do a book event, so we'd love to have you. And this was in the summer. So 2 of these stores around London gave me a book reading event. Each store ordered 30 copies of the book. And then one store, which was really, it's a typical Borders store, very bright, very brash, lots of natural light coming through, big store. So they gave me a reading event on an evening in June, and they spent 2 weeks promoting it. They had all these leaflets, they had a big poster in the window. They sent it out to their email list, and they ordered 30 copies, and they put the books on display at the end of the aisle, which was amazing, because normally you'd pay a lot of money to get that exposure. They gave me an area in the store for my event. They had about 60 chairs laid out. It was next to their Starbucks, and I asked for a board, so they'd got a board set up, and I was all ready. I got there early, and I was all ready, and they had enough seating for 60 people. And guess how many people came?
200.
3.
Oh.
3 people came. And after those 3, one of them was my cousin. So there was only 2 people who came. But what happened was they were so apologetic. They said, look, it was absolutely beautiful June evening. And she was really nice and warm and hot outside. So they said most people probably didn't want to come into a bookstore. But the point was those 3 people got really good value because I spent 2 hours with them. We spent a lot of time on each of their goals, and we had a good time. And then another store in London, I had about 6 people come. Then I did 2 more events in 2 stores in the Midlands, which is middle of England, near my mum's home. Again, I told them, look, I'm a local author, which I was, because that was my second home. And the same thing happened there. They ordered 30 copies each, and I only had a few people come around each time. But the magical thing that happened is that once those books were in the store, they couldn't return them to me. They had to sell them, and they started selling really well. And the head office buyer at Borders, he picked up the trend that this book's doing really well. And 2 weeks later, I had an order for 300 plus books. And I just got an order by email saying, so initially I had to call them. I said, look, normally I only get an order for about 2 books every week. And here's an order for 300 plus books. Can you just check that this is correct? And the person I spoke to, she goes, look, that's correct. She goes, I'll tell you, but I think you've got a national listing and it was Borders. So all the effort I put into the book events paid off within 2 months, because suddenly the book started doing well, and that was in Borders. And Borders were over the following year, 2 years before they went bust, they were really good. They kept ordering and people kept buying, and yeah. So again, the little seeds that I planted, same as in the 2 years before in the coffee shop when I did the event for Red Nose. Little thing I did then came back to me many times over. So maybe there's a lesson there for all of us, actually. The little seeds we plant now will come back.
They're so wonderful.
I think so. And Arvind, you've been here in the States as well, didn't
I've
you?
been in the States, yes.
book
So I've got a
signing?
brother in Atlanta, Georgia. So, and I was there 4 years back as well. Again, one of those funny things. I won a holiday to Chicago. It was a newspaper draw. There were about 14,000 people who entered, and I had a 1 in 14,000 chance of winning this holiday. And I just happened to win. So I came to Chicago, and then on the way back, I went to Atlanta. I've got a brother in Atlanta. So I did a book event there as well. Again, I spoke to Carrie Butcher, and she suggested a store in Atlanta. I got in touch with them, and they allowed me to do a book event for that morning for about 3 hours in the store. And again, that went really well. I just chatted to a lot of people, and time just went by. And one of the other things I wanted to share was I always carry a book with me. So if I meet somebody who I think would benefit from, I'll just give it away to them as a gift. And the moment, like a lot of these cities, there are a lot of homeless people around us. So a few years back, and in fact, actually this happened a month back, I met this guy, and he was a grown man sitting outside the Starbucks, and he was literally crying his eyes out. So I walked past him, and I said, no, I can't just walk past him. So I went back, chatted to him, and he'd just become homeless, and he was perfectly fine. He was very eloquent. He wasn't, normally people associate homeless people as drinking or on drugs. He was completely fine. And we got chatting, so he told me his story, and I said, look, let me just get you a drink first. So I went and got him a hot chocolate, and we got chatting. And then we went into Starbucks, and we got chatting a bit more. Then I gave him a copy of the book, and he was just blown away. And then 2 days later, he messaged me saying, look, I really enjoyed meeting you on the book, and I really want to start doing some of the things you suggested. And we're in touch. So I don't know what will happen. He's still homeless at the moment, but at the moment, because of the current situation, I'm hoping some of the local authorities will be able to home him because of the COVID crisis. But little things like that, you just don't know where it's going to lead to. Another time, I was at the traffic lights, and there was some guy crossing the road with his 2 young children on bikes. So again, we got chatting. His name is George. And then for the next 10 minutes, we were going the same way. He was going past my home, in fact. So we got chatting, and then again, he said he was looking for work. He was an artist, and he was just at a crossroads to see what he could do next. And I said, well, actually, I've got something that could help you. So I sent him a PDF of the book. I didn't have a hard copy of the book with me. And the next day, he just messaged me back. He said, that was so timely. He said, yesterday morning, I'll put it out to the university. I'll meet somebody or something that would really help me move from where I am now. And then the book was perfect for him. And then George, he became a coaching client. I worked with him for a few months. And then he and his wife and the kids actually emigrated to Australia 2 years back. So I met him a year before. And during that time, he did a lot of things to get his life in really good shape. And when he left, him and his kids, I invited them to my home, and we played in the garden for a while. And he painted me these amazing paintings, which are actually in my kitchen now. And that's all because I chatted to him and reached out to him, not knowing anything about him. And this is one of the things I talk a lot about in the book, is about connecting with people, reaching out, and being open to whatever happens, whatever comes along as a result of that connection. Another time, there was a guy who was always outside this train station, and his name was Christopher Patrick McCormack. Now, it's important that I mention his name in full, because that's how he introduced himself to other people. And he used to sell this magazine called The Big Issue. Now, this magazine is specially created for people who are homeless, so they get to sell it for £2-3, and then they keep half the money, and half the money goes to the production company. And he was always out there selling this magazine, and he had such a great line. He called himself an entrepreneur, and he said, look, I'm just starting out in my life and this is my first business and so on and so on. So I got to know him really well. And then one day I gave him a copy of my book and he said he's going to read it, but I wasn't sure because, and also it felt a bit strange to me giving a homeless guy a book called Get the Life You Love. But okay, you'll get to whatever's going to happen, is going to happen. And then a few months later, I came out of this train station and Christopher was there again. And it turns out he was actually looking out for me to see whether I came out. He said, look, I'm so glad to see you today. I'm so glad I bumped into you. I've got something for you. And he had some fruit for me, in a container. And I said, come on, man. I said, look, I'll be going home. I'll be eating soon. You should have it. And he said, no, look, I got 2 here for you. So I got 1 for you and 1 for me. I said, all right, then. I was still a bit reluctant. And he said, look, you need to learn to receive. You even wrote about it in your book. So not only had he read my book, he actually observed some of the lessons. So he's now telling me that, look, I've got to learn to receive. So then he told me the truth about it. He said he read the book, he'd taken so much out of it, he's applying some of the things in it. And we became friends over the following year, 2 years. And then he cleaned up his act, he stopped drinking, and he really sorted his life out. Not necessarily because of the book, but because a lot of other things happened for him as well. So yes, I can share a number of other stories like this, but if you guys got any questions or...
Yeah, well, I'm always a talker. That's one thing that I loved about your book, and I can see, I mean, I've only read the first 2-3 chapters, but that's always been, in fact, I even wrote it down here on my paper. One of my biggest things has always been, there's so much beautiful information like yours, and that how do we reach the homeless and the poor and the people who really can benefit from this? Because, Enlightened World Network is wonderful because you can go on there, there's no cost. Angel River Family too is just no cost. Anybody can go on and they can get a lot of help. But a lot of times to get any kind of help, it costs. And if you're very poor and if you're homeless, then you don't have those things available. In fact, you're probably struggling to survive. So you've given me some ideas and some encouragement to reach those people, which is really something, I've been very poor. I've never been homeless, but I've been very poor. So I know how it is when you feel like that and you haven't got anywhere to turn, So I just love that. I also loved, like I was saying before, the fact that it's so insightful. You start examining yourself because like I was saying about the values, you talk about the values, and I've always thought of values like in other people. Like what is it I admire in other people? What would I like to see in other people? And I never turned it on myself to say, okay, what values am I living by? What am I doing showing the values that I really appreciate and love? And so it was really insightful to me. And I'm very anxious to read the rest of the book. So.
And I would say one of your values is love.
Yes, that's the top one. And kindness is the second one.
Yeah. Yeah. So you might have heard of Robert Holden, who is a Hay House teacher and author. And I attended one of his live events once, and he said something to me which I always remember. He said, we all look around, a lot of people seek a life purpose and they almost have their life on hold till they find their life purpose. And so Robert said, why not just make love and kindness your life purpose? And then it's so easy. So if you lived every day from that space of love and kindness and made that your number one value or your number one purpose or your only purpose, he said life is so easy then we don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about what we should be doing or what our life is about. Makes it very simple. In fact, what we could do, Terry, is one of my other books is Love is All That Matters. I'll send you the PDF and you can share it with everyone else on the call. That's only a Kindle book, actually. So it's not a hard copy book. It's only a PDF Kindle format.
So I'm looking forward to that.
I'll send you the Get the Life You Love PDF as well. And send it to everyone, because if they're not getting the hard copy, at least they've got the PDF format.
Okay. That's wonderful. Thank you, Arvind.
Thank you.
Speaking of love and kindness, a lot of people are looking for their life purpose, and a lot of times it is something that you love to do. So if you take your advice and focus on love and kindness, it seems natural that your life purpose would follow or fall in right into that.
Yeah, I think there's a distinction between passion and purpose. Some people are very passionate about a certain activity, and purpose could be the same thing, could be different. So purpose could be, let's say purpose is spreading love and kindness, but your passion could be or speaking or coaching.
Right.
Could be all three as well, but.
I love that.
Yeah. So the question could be, how can you bring more love and kindness into your daily life through your passion, through your work?
Right. Very good.
Could be as simple as just talking to people in the supermarket and acknowledging them, because most people don't acknowledge people who do so much for us. One day I was in my supermarket, and they all normally have the staff normally have the name badge, and I always try and address them with their name, and quite often they're really surprised that I actually bother looking at their name tag. People don't. It's a very cold interaction, especially in England, because people are so much into themselves. I'm sure Americans do a lot bit more vocal and a bit more chatty, but yeah, everyone has their stiff upper lip, and we don't tend to interact much. Obviously, I'm generalizing greatly, but so simple hello and just using their name would make a big difference. Because I think everyone needs to know that they count, that they matter. So by acknowledging their presence, it means so much to them. You might be the only person who actually acknowledges them that day.
So true. You might
People
be turning a life around. I'm sorry, Linda, go ahead.
I probably interrupted you. So many people don't feel like they're seen.
Yeah, even the ones that are loud, they're still worried about not being seen, so they get louder. You know what I mean? It's a definite thing to it's definitely appreciated, like you said, to acknowledge somebody. Just to acknowledge that they're there sometimes is just enough to do that. Yeah, I agree. You miss out a lot on life if you keep your eyes closed too. As a person, you have no idea what that person that you don't talk to or don't connect with, how many doors are you closing or not allowing to open by not having, yeah. And by the way, I think we Americans also appreciate being talked to and smiled to and all of that as well, especially right now. And that is one of the things I do appreciate technology for when it's working for everyone. Is to be able to reach out to people. I know that a lot of people are feeling, like they're not connecting. And yet for me, in spite of the lockdown and the face-to-face socialization, I'm making so many other different connections that I'm grateful for, and learning to navigate and how to appreciate them better than what I ever did before. So,
So I know you haven't seen the book yet, but I have a chapter chapter 7, or it's all about adopting an attitude of gratitude. And one of the first question, or the first action really, is write down 10 things that you're grateful for in your life.
Yes.
And one is, and this is a daily list, it's not set in stone, you can do this daily or every few days. Second one is to choose the most important people in your life and to tell them today what you love and appreciate most about them. And then the one which is relevant to what we're talking about is to list up to 10 other people to whom you'll show your appreciation this week. And that could be the postman, I don't know whether you have a milkman anymore, the milkman or supermarket person. Do you still have milk deliveries? You do? Okay. No, you don't. You don't anymore either, actually. But yeah. But at the moment, what I found in the last few months, there have been lots more local delivery. People are shopping online. So any one day in my building, I might get 4 or 5 different delivery people coming around. And during the actual lockdown in London in April, May, June, my nephew and I were giving out chocolate bars and apples and bananas, and they were really astounded that somebody had done that, because there wasn't much interaction. We were not supposed to get near each other, so we were all wearing masks, but we were going out there giving them things, Easter eggs. So our lockdown happened just before Easter. So what we did was we bought boxes and boxes of Easter eggs. And for the following week, we were giving them out as gifts to anybody who made a delivery. Simple gesture for us, but it made a big difference to them. So little things we can all do.
Absolutely. And you mentioned earlier, we were talking about how we really want to be seen and acknowledged. And one thing that I always try to do is if I go out for a meal at a restaurant, I always look for the name of the person that's serving me, or most of the time they'll say their name to you. And I call them by their name. So when they come to the table, I just speak to them with their name, so they know that I'm seeing them. I'm not just there concerned about my food and what I'm eating. That's great. But to have that conversation with somebody of just, acknowledging them and seeing them is so important these days. Especially when we're all behind masks, it's important to let them know, I really do see you. We're all supposed to separate and, be covered, but I really do know that you're there, and I thank you and honor you for being there for me. So I think that's important too, whether it's the restaurant, the grocery store, whatever it might be, to let those people know that we really do still see each other. As much as we've been told to separate, we still see each other. So
yeah.
And I think for some of us, I think we're called to make new connections in this time, so that we can show other people that this is survivable, that we can connect on different levels than what we're used to physically. And I think that will only help train people to live more intuitively and energetically if they hadn't already. It's almost like, okay, well, you're going to have to now. You're going to have to figure it out. So,
yeah. And also, most people are so engrossed in their digital devices nowadays. Even when they're walking down the street, they've got their headset on or they're looking at their phone. There's very little human interaction anyway. So one of the things I started doing is, because I love taking photos when I go to the park, but what I do now is make sure I don't take the phone out, or the next time I go out, I'm actually going to leave the phone behind, because right now it's so tempting because of the autumn colors to keep taking photos. But then I'm missing on the human connection. So when I go out this weekend, my plan is not to take the phone with me. I probably regret not having with me because of all the amazing photos, but I think being experimenting, just being present around people and connecting. And also, people know when you're present, right? When you're with somebody, you always know when they're fully present. But most of us have got so much going on. We're thinking about the next thing we want to say, or we're thinking about our dinner tonight, or our meeting or something. So we're never ever really present. But when you suddenly meet somebody who's fully present, and you got that presence, and there's a much deeper human connection. And it's such a gift to give that to someone when you are fully present yourself.
Lot
they
of-
get- Yeah.
I'm so sorry. No, go ahead. I was just going to say that so many young people nowadays, they're actually playing games constantly. I mean, they have friends and they during the day, they have all these games that they play all day long. I'm saying this because this is what my daughter does.
Mm.
Has these friends and they're wonderful people. I've met them and they're, you know, but they have these certain games that they're playing all the time. And we'll be sitting at dinner or something and you hear a beep, and what it is, they have to play part of the game. You know, so they're not, you don't feel like they're there with you because their mind is somewhere else. But I also wanted to say that I think that's what's so wonderful about what Terry and Christina and maybe the others do too. They hand out these cards. Terry hands out gratitude, Christina hands out love, and it's telling the person, I see you and I love you, I care about you. And can you imagine if you're one of those people who's feeling so low that you have no purpose and you don't know why you're here or anything, and someone gives you proof that you're not only seen, but you have purpose. I think that's such a beautiful thing to do. And that's why I want to start doing it too.
Yeah.
It's addictive, Gene. Start doing it and you won't be able to, I mean, because you do see it instantaneous. You change the entire, like somebody comes to you upset and feeling that unseen. And then, I mean, it's instantaneous, the difference it makes in a room sometimes. It's like, wow, well, good. When I walked in here, it was angry feeling or sad feeling. And then I know I have to give them something. So
Yeah.
I wish a card would work for my son.
well, yeah, it won't
Yeah.
fix everything. It's, yeah, it certainly won't do that. However, you know, it may help someone like your son if out of the blue, someone just, I mean, you just never know how something kind is going to affect someone.
He needs it.
Yeah, that's so true.
So how old is your
You
son,
just never
Kathy?
know.
How old is he?
Yeah.
He's 24.
Mhm.
He's living at home with us now, and he works with my husband for the same company. So, but when he comes home, Gene, he goes down to his room and he's playing those games. And it's a violent game that he plays. It's always guns involved. And I don't know. Now, when he comes upstairs for dinner, no phones allowed at the table,
Good.
unless I'm taking pictures of what my husband's cooking, which you guys have probably seen. That's a different thing. But
I
no,
was going to say maybe your son will grow out of it, but he's 24.
yeah,
Maybe that's what he needs to do right now. Maybe that's his fun and enjoyment right now.
it seems to be the only thing that he does for fun. We've, tried to get him interested. It's a motorcycle family. He has dirt bikes. He has his own motorcycle. I thought he was going to start drag racing like his dad did, and he never did. He doesn't have a lot of hands-on, like he doesn't have that mechanic ability to go out and work on the bikes like my husband. That's what he would do. He'd go out into the garage, tinker around on the bikes, change spark plugs, do this and that, just to keep him from not becoming a slouch where you're just drinking alcohol and watching TV, that kind of thing. So I see it's like he doesn't have anything figured out yet or something. I can't figure out why is he so different? I mean, my husband and I were married at his age. We were married, I was 21. And we were making a good deal of money, and we weren't living near our parents at all. We were 4 hours away from our parents. And it just doesn't seem like he has any drive to get out there on his own. And it just bothers me. Oof.
Can I offer-
Anyway,
Yeah, I was going to say, some people just take their time to find their purpose, their drive. And maybe this is what he needs to go through right now.
maybe.
It's true.
Maybe.
Because even one of my sons, in fact, for a whole year, we didn't even know where he was.
Ugh.
We never had a phone call. We never had
That
contact.
would be worse. That would kill me.
Mhm.
Kill me.
Finally, my husband said, you know, I've had it. I've got to find out where he is. I got to know at least that he's alive. And so he flew to Rhode Island. That's the last address we had for him. And luckily, Rhode Island's a pretty small state. So he went to his old workplace that we had known, and just happened to run into someone who knew where he was. And so he went and found him. And a lot of things had happened in his life, and he was ashamed. He had shame. He didn't want us to know. He didn't, you know. And this is a son who is a minister now. And he ministers to the homeless.
That would really go over. I could see my mom rolling over in her grave.
And the thing is, he had learned something. He ministers to the homeless and the people who are rehabbing and changing their lives. And I you know, we learn our lessons where we learn our lessons. And I guess he had to learn something before he could have the compassion that he has and the feelings that he has now for the people he works with. Hi, Trooper.
Yeah, it's just too hard to expect our journey to be someone else's and our path to be someone else's. Who knows what he's here to do? Do you know what I mean? Who knows? I mean, I can tell you what, I am mighty glad that at 24, when I was 24, that there was no such thing as phone cameras and stuff like that could be. I mean, I certainly did not tell my mom about everything I had done or was getting into, or
Me
I
too.
mean, no matter how much she had taught me and shown me by example, sometimes I just had to go on my own way, and that way was not always for the best. But yet again, when I look back at what would I have changed, I'm not sure there's much I would change because of who I am now. So
She learned.
some of them I had to really skin my knees on, let me tell you.
Well, I was lucky. The angels looked after me a lot. If I ever did anything, I got caught. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it was the slightest thing, you know, that I went somewhere I wasn't supposed to go, so help me. My mother would be there, or my mother's friend would call her immediately. And, you know, I always. So I always say that the angels have protected me all my life, or I'd be gone by now because of so many things. You know.
I didn't let my hair down until I was in my 20s because of that reason right there, I think, is because I had two aunts that were secretaries to the local police department. I mean, I got spotted out in a crowd like that. Oh, how are you today, Christina? Oh, great, thanks, you know. But yeah, so I guess I was a late bloomer for some things.
I wish I had angels around me when I was 40 to stop me from doing what I did when I was in my 40s. But
Oh, believe me, I certainly am not limited to doing things I am, I don't want to say totally sorry for, but definitely things that I scratched my head was definitely not limited to a younger woman.
Right.
I learn all the time just
We're
how
a
many
work in
things I don't
progress.
know.
I say that all the
So-
time. I'm just a work in progress.
Hmm.
We all
Seems
are.
like seems like all of you already have the life you love. You don't need the book.
Oh, she does.
Oh,
Not really.
we
Well,
can always improve.
close.
I love my life now. I really do.
You too.
COVID and everything
Good.
that's going on. I just really love my life. And sometimes I feel a little guilty because so many people are suffering. And I wish I could give them the joy that they can find. You know, if they go inside themselves and they trust and they accept what the divine has to offer. And I just, you know, but I'm not going to stop not having the joy in my life just because.
That's right.
Exactly. So
Right.
can I say something to that, G? Just because other people aren't as abundant or as in a good place as you are, doesn't mean you need to suffer as well. So
That's
your
right.
suffering just adds to their suffering. So it's better that your joy adds to their joy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
That's
most
what
of
we
us
pray
are.
for
Right.
every night, huh? Yeah, we
That's
chant.
So I
why.
don't think you should feel guilty about how good your life is, but you can certainly spread more of the joy and the goodness around you from that place,
Yes,
from
that's
that place of abundance.
Yeah, I think most of us are empaths, so we feel that pain that other people are going through, but it doesn't mean that our light has to diminish. And
Yeah.
definitely, we heal with love. So the more love you give out, and Jean, you give so much love out to all of us, and
I get
that
so much
is
love
healing.
from all of you. You all are.
That's, yeah, Kuan Yin says that's the energy that heals is pouring
Oh,
love out into the world. And you certainly do that, as do all of you that are on this
You
call.
all do. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So much love in our group that.
Mhm.
And Kathy, give it time. Okay. He'll come around, you know. He's got good. And
That's
now
true.
you are having all these angels and everything around you. Just give it some time.
We talked about values before, Kathy, and I'm sure he has good values because he's not out doing what the games are doing. He's a spectator, more or less, playing the games. So there's a lot of bad things out there he could be doing.
Well, he knows. He knows when he's gone out in the past and has gone to parties and things like that. He says, for some odd reason, he attracts trouble. I don't know, but he'll end up in fights. He's had his jaw broken. He's
Oh, poor thing.
very, I don't know, he's volatile. He really is. So he knows himself where to go and where not to go, what to stay away from now because of that. I don't know
Yes,
how he
growth.
attracts the trouble. To see him, if you saw pictures of him at all, you just couldn't believe it. This scrawny little 24-year-old. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm afraid, unfortunately, that he's got that same anger aura about him as his dad and his grandfather on the dad's side. So
Just
I
keep
have no
sending
idea
love.
what to do.
Keep sending
Keep
love,
sending
and
in
we're
love,
going to
yeah.
surround you with love as well.
Mhm.
It does heal. Oh, well, unfortunately, we're coming up to the top of the hour. So it's been a great discussion today. And Arvin, we really appreciate you being with us today. I think it's going to be best if we give time for everyone to get the book so that we can get to the work part of it. And then we can have some really in-depth discussions with each other. So starting next week, we'll start discussing Ruth's book, One Love. We'll do that for a couple of weeks and then go back into Get the Life You Love and Live It. And I'm so looking forward to talking with you all about some of what comes out for you as you do that self-reflecting. And I'm really excited about it because I remember when we did this with the very first book that we studied here in the book club, and we all were just so amazed at what we were discovering about ourselves. And to those that are watching with us, yes, Luz, we will put the name of the book. And Luz, I hope you've joined us in our book club. And if not, it's the Soul Food Book Club on Facebook. We meet every week. And the two books will be there, The One Love by Dr. Ruth Anderson and Get the Life You Love and Live It by Arvind Devaya, who has graced us with his presence and his warm words today. Arvind, thank you so much for being
Yes,
here
thank
with us.
Thank you for having me. And I thought I'll just end with a couple of lines from the book. This is from the words. So this is really a message for all of you to go away with. So my final thoughts. Remember that your life counts, so make it count. You are unique. There's no one like you on this planet, never has been and never will be. So do not sell yourself short. Do not sell the world short. This is your life, love it, live it. One life, chance, grab it. So go out and get the life you love and live it.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you all.
Yes,
Beautiful.
thank
Thank you for your words. Thank you for publishing this wonderful book that we can
Yeah.
all just really grow from. And that's what I'm
Can't
looking
wait.
forward to, is that growth.
I'll
Thank
send you the PDF
can't
so you
wait
can
to
share
work.
it with everyone. Okay.
I will.
And
Certainly.
I'll see you all again in a few weeks' time, I guess.
Love it.
Absolutely.
I look
Thank you,
forward
Arvind.
to it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
everyone, for
bye-bye.
being here today. Stay with us at Enlightened World Network. We have more programming coming up. I will be on at 3 o'clock. No, I'll be on at 5 o'clock your time. I have to get used to this time change thing. At 5 o'clock Eastern time today, I will come on and lead a guided meditation. And we're going to work with Archangel Michael today. So if you love Michael as much as I do, let's come and immerse ourselves in his energy at 5 o'clock. And thank you all for being here. Much love
Thank
to you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.